Look, we need to talk. Today is January 20th, 2026. The ground beneath our feet feels unstable. It's a low rumble, the kind you feel in your bones before you hear it with your ears. Something is happening in America. You feel it when you read the headlines. You feel it when you talk to your family. It's a tension in the air, a sense that the rules we thought we understood are being rewritten in real time. This isn't about panic. It's about paying attention. Imagine you're a mother in Minneapolis, Renee Nicole Good. It's January 7th. You're a U.S. citizen, just living your life, raising your 3 kids. You're driving your car when an ICE agent orders you to get out. Things escalate, and you are shot and killed. This isn't a scene from a movie. This happened. According to CNBC, this single tragic event has become a flashpoint, igniting a city already on edge. Your death, Renee's death, has become the justification for what is coming next. A wave of federal action that threatens to engulf an entire community and to redefine the relationship between citizens and their government. Right now, 2 distinct but related storms are brewing, both centered around the White House. The first is a domestic tempest over Minnesota. Renee Nicole Good was fatally shot by an ICE agent. Another shooting involving ICE followed. Protests have erupted. President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act. The Washington Post published his social media post. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law, I will institute the Insurrection Act. This is not a vague hint. It's a direct promise to use a powerful, controversial presidential tool. The threat has been backed by military preparations. Time confirms the Pentagon put 1,500 active duty troops on notice for Minnesota. Those troops are from the 11th Airborne Division, a unit specialized in Arctic warfare, now being told to prepare for city streets. It's crucial to understand the words being used because the language is a tool. You will hear officials say, "This is not martial law." And technically, they are correct. Martial law is when the military completely takes over all functions of civilian government, including the courts. It's a total suspension of civil law. What is being threatened in Minnesota is the Insurrection Act of 1807. Think of it as martial law's younger, more targeted cousin. It creates an exception to a fundamental American law, the Posse Comitatus Act, which generally forbids using active duty military for domestic law enforcement. So, what does invoking the Insurrection Act actually do? It gives the president the authority to deploy active-duty U.S. troops on American soil to suppress an insurrection, domestic violence, or conspiracy that hinders the execution of state or federal law. In this case, the administration is framing the protests in Minnesota and the alleged obstruction by local officials as just such a conspiracy. Once invoked, those soldiers from the 11th Airborne could be used to make arrests, control crowds, and enforce federal orders. When federal troops enter an American city, the texture of daily life changes immediately. It's not just about seeing Humvees on the street, it's about the psychological shift when civilian life and military force dissolve. The first and most visible effect is the imposition of control on movement. Suddenly, driving to the grocery store, visiting a relative across town can become a fraught experience. Checkpoints can spring up on major arteries, manned by soldiers in full combat gear. You'll be asked for identification, questioned about your destination, possibly have your vehicle searched. This creates an atmosphere of suspicion, where everyone is a potential threat. The presence of a heavily armed military force has a chilling effect on democratic rights, particularly the right to protest. A demonstration that would have been managed by local police, part of the community, is now confronted by an outside occupying force. The rules of engagement are different. The tolerance for dissent is often far lower. Protests can be dispersed more aggressively, cordoned off into designated free speech zones, or shut down entirely under the justification of maintaining order. This compression of public space makes it harder for citizens to voice opposition, silencing dissent through intimidation. Beyond the streets, the economic and social fabric begins to fray. Businesses suffer as people stay home out of fear, stay home due to movement restrictions. Supply chains can be disrupted. For hourly workers, a curfew, a closed-off part of the city, can mean lost wages they can't afford to lose. The constant stress and anxiety take a heavy toll on mental health. The feeling of being occupied, of living in a conflict zone, erodes social trust and cohesion. Children are exposed to the casual presence of military hardware and personnel, normalizing a state of emergency that should be anything but normal. This isn't just about inconvenience. It's about a fundamental power shift. Local police sidelined, city officials sidelined. The authority you thought you could appeal to, your mayor, your city council, is rendered powerless. Instead, command flows directly from Washington, D.C. federal agents, who already number in the thousands in Minneapolis, according to CNBC reports, would be bolstered by troops who answer only to the president. This creates a dangerous accountability vacuum. When things go wrong, who do you complain to? Who is in charge? The answer becomes unclear, and for the average citizen, that uncertainty is one of the most unsettling effects of all. For many white Americans, the sight of troops on the streets is shocking and, alien. For Black Americans, it is often the terrifying culmination of a reality they already live with. Over-policing excessive force, the presumption of guilt. When the military arrives, all of those existing dangers are amplified. Daily discretionary stops in many Black neighborhoods don't just increase, they become militarized. A routine traffic stop can now involve a soldier with an assault rifle. Implicit biases are now backed by overwhelming military force and different rules of engagement. The danger level for every interaction skyrockets. We have documented examples when federal power surges into Black and brown communities. Reports of federal agents in Chicago, tactics used against protesters across the country. The pattern is consistent: aggressive crowd control, less lethal weapons that still cause serious harm, sharp increases in arrests and detentions. In Minneapolis, already grieving and angry over the ICE shootings, the arrival of troops would feel like a punitive occupation. It sends a clear message: your grief is a threat. Your demand for justice is treated as insurrection to be put down by force. The fight over Greenland might seem like a bizarre, far-off reality show, but the consequences are about to hit home. When the president slaps tariffs on our closest NATO allies, countries like Germany, France, the UK, the Netherlands, it's not them who pay the cost, it's you. That 10% tariff, rising to 25%, is a tax on imported goods. Companies that import everything from European cars, cheese, machinery components, pharmaceuticals, will pass that cost directly on to American consumers. The price of everyday goods will go up. It's an inflation bomb, set to detonate on February 1st. This economic pain is only the beginning. As the situation at home becomes more tense, many Black Americans are asking a difficult question. Is it time to leave? The idea of moving abroad, to find safety, opportunity, a society that doesn't view your existence as a threat, is not new. But the current climate has given this conversation a raw urgency. The potential benefits are obvious and deeply appealing. The primary gain is physical safety, the chance to live in a country where you aren't constantly worried about a deadly encounter with law enforcement or the prospect of military deployment in your city. It's the promise of being able to simply breathe. However, becoming an expatriate is not a simple escape. It's a trade-off, and you are exchanging one set of very familiar risks for a new, unfamiliar set. The biggest hurdle is your legal status. You are no longer a citizen with inherent rights. You are a guest. Your ability to stay, work, and access services depends entirely on a visa. This process can be incredibly difficult, expensive, and bureaucratic. You will need to prove you have skills the country wants or sufficient funds to support yourself. In a volatile situation like this, knowing what to watch for is a form of power. You need to be able to distinguish political noise and actionable signals. The first and most important signal is a formal presidential proclamation invoking the Insurrection Act. This is the legal trigger. It will be announced publicly. If you hear the president has invoked the act for Minnesota, that is the moment the threat becomes a reality. Signal: active duty troops are legally cleared for deployment and domestic law enforcement. Second set of signals: logistical and military. Watch for official announcements from the Pentagon, from the Department of War confirming deployment orders. News outlets will report on troop movements. Reports of C-17 transport planes arriving, convoys of military vehicles on highways, are concrete signs of imminent deployment. Pay attention to the state's National Guard status. Order to federalize the Guard, placed under the president's command rather than the governor's. On a local level, early implementation of military-style controls, sudden announcement, citywide curfews, neighborhood-specific curfews, curfews enforced by federal agents or the military. Look for checkpoints on major roads, bridges, public transit hubs, restrictions on internet or cellular service, communications blackouts, local police replaced by federal officers or soldiers at key locations. Chain of command has shifted. Keep an eye on the international front. NATO is a critical barometer. Allies' responses to tariffs, retaliatory tariffs. Denmark, Germany, France. Withdrawal of personnel from joint commands. Formal downgrading of diplomatic ties. As Al Jazeera reported, Denmark warned a move on Greenland could mean the end of NATO. Member state invoking Article 5 consultations discussing a threat from an ally, the U.S. sign of extreme global instability that will have severe domestic consequences. We are standing at a precarious crossroads. The threat of military force on American streets, combined with a reckless diplomatic gamble that risks our economy and global security, has created a moment of profound danger. This isn't a drill. The pieces are in place for a rapid escalation of federal power we haven't seen in our lifetime. The feeling of dread is not paranoia. It is a rational response to the evidence before us. Recognizing this is not about succumbing to fear. It is the first step toward reclaiming control and taking protective action. Vigilance is now a civic duty. Pay close attention to the signals. Monitor credible, fact-based news sources for reports on the Insurrection Act, troop movements, NATO crisis. Talk to your neighbors and community members. Share information. A well-informed, connected public is the best defense against disinformation and chaos. Do not be divided or distracted. The stakes are too high.